Hello and welcome to Columbus's Omni-Channel customer experience in Dynamics 365. My name is Jeff Spain and I'm a Senior Dynamics 365 Solution Consultant here at Columbus. As most of you know, Microsoft Dynamics 365, traditionally known as Microsoft Dynamics CRM, has many areas of functionalities as listed on this screen. We have sales, we have marketing, we have customer service, and we have field service. Today we'll be focusing on the customer service area of Dynamics 365 and specifically the different channels your customers can work with you so that you can provide them your best customer service experience. These are the common channels that customers are using in today's world. And in some cases, your customers are expecting these channels. All of these methods that you see here, from email, live chat, social media, web portals, and of course, traditionally telephone, all these methods can be supported in Microsoft Dynamics 365 using the case management functionality. The core framework of Dynamics 365 customer service is case management, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. The case management application inside of Dynamics 365 uses what's called the case entity, and the case entity is used to manage your customer service request, whether that's questions, problems, anything like that related to customer service. Your customers will be accounts and contacts in the system. And then again, these problems or questions are going to be managed in the case management area. And related to cases are going to be the different activities that we use to communicate with our customers. Those might be phone calls, our web chats, emails, those type of things are all going to be related to these cases that we're going to resolve for our customers. We'll also have the ability to have knowledge base articles in the Dynamics 365 system and relate those to cases so that we know which articles are solving which problems. We're ultimately working on these cases to resolution. Of course, we're keeping the customer in the loop on all of this during the entire process with different interactions such as emails and phone calls, as well as automatic updates. Another key component to a successful customer experience is defining a successful and repeatable customer experience process. Dynamics 365 can guide your customer service team through that process and even enforce your users to adhere to that process if necessary. The process will show as a ribbon similar to what you see on the screen here in the green on your customer service representative screen, and it will guide them through this process. You will see this is my company's process. Your company process might be completely different, but as an example for today, we'll be looking at this process here where we first want to identify the issue, qualify the issue, maybe do some research on the issue, and then ultimately resolving the issue. Now that we know a little bit about the case management and process management in Dynamics 365, these are the different ways that your internal users, your customer service users will interact with Dynamics 365. We'll focus on just a couple of these in just a minute. But we have the traditional Dynamics 365 web access. There's two different types of that. We have a tool called the Unified Service Desk, as well as mobile capabilities for your customer service team, and of course the integration to Microsoft Outlook. And as a reminder, we'll be looking at the different ways that your customers will experience your customer service, and that's through the following channels of email, social media, telephone, customer self-service portals, and chat integration. And without further ado, let's go ahead and do a demonstration in our live Dynamics 365 system to demonstrate these capabilities. This is Dynamics 365 in a web browser. So what you're seeing here is a dashboard that maybe a customer service manager might use. And what it's showing me is basically information related to our case management system. So you see different KPIs on this screen here, and just a collection of them on a dashboard. So you see some charts of how many active cases that we have and who are the technicians that are working on them or the customer service people that are working on them. We also see a little customer satisfaction chart here. So as we resolve our cases, we're recording an attribute or a field of how satisfied was the customer. A lot of times that can be accomplished by sending surveys out to your customers after you complete and resolve your cases. And that can also be handled through the Dynamics 365 system through a tool called Voice of the Customer. As I scroll down on my dashboard here, again, you see different charts and KPIs. I'm going to take you to a case. It's specifically a specific case here. So we're going to navigate to service and go into our case management area. And what you're seeing here is basically a list of all of our active cases. So these are cases that are yet to be resolved. We've got many customer service people that are working on them. And let me go ahead and open up one of these cases. So there's a case in the system where the title of it is a printer menu has frozen. So let's go ahead and look at that case here. So this is the internal, what your customer service reps might be looking at as one possibility of a case or a specific incident in the system. So the first thing I want to point out is the process ribbon up on the top here. So my company, which is called Contoso, has predefined a customer service process. Okay, that's going to keep things consistent with my customers so that they're all having the same great experience every time they reach out to my company. So in my process, I've defined kind of a 4-stage process here of identifying the issue and who's calling in or who's emailing in, qualifying what the issue is, doing some research and possibly escalating that issue to the point then where I'm then resolving the issue and getting back to the customer. So that's the ribbon that you see up here. When we look here, we can see how long we have been in the stage. So this particular case is currently in the very first stage of identifying who's calling in. And I see that by the little flag here. And we've been in that stage for the last 4 hours. So this particular case had come in earlier in the day. Below that, I'm going to go ahead and collapse this ribbon down. There's our case form, and we just have different pieces of information about this case. So who the customer is, who is the contact at that company. This whole screen is all customizable. So we can add fields of information that you need to capture to service your customers correctly. Okay, so for example, I have a product field here. So if the customers are calling about specific products that they might own or assets that they might have, I'm able to identify those and then of course report on those later to see, well, how many times are we servicing or answering questions about those specific products. I have a description of what the issue is and that kind of thing. So that's all just important information about the case. In the middle here, we have different areas of things related to the case. Specifically, I want to point out this activities area. And so these are the different activities that are related to this case. So this particular case actually originated from an email. So of course, related to this case is the original email that started the entire case process. And I could click on this and view that entire email. Dynamics 365 case management can also track what's called entitlements and SLAs, which is service level agreements. So this particular case is for a customer called Coho Winery. And Coho Winery has a entitlement on file in our system. And of course, Dynamics 365 is managing those entitlements as well. So entitlement might be something like we offer a certain number of cases, maybe in a month or year for this customer. It could be that we're offering so many minutes of service to this customer in a time frame, and Dynamics 365 can track that and tell you and report to you when customers are running out of those entitlements. It can also track SLAs, so you can have different SLAs in the system. So an example might be we have bronze, silver, and gold level service. And gold level service might mean that we're going to get back to the customer or even resolve their case within the same day. And again, Dynamics 365 can track all that. So Coho Winery actually does have a service level agreement set up in our system, and we're to resolve their case actually within 8 hours of that, eight business hours of them submitting the case. If I scroll down on this form here, I have an area that I'd like to show you where it's giving me some of the SLA metrics here. So this case came in earlier today, and now it tells me that I actually have 3 hours and 1 minute to get this case resolved. So basically by the end of today. Okay, I can also see some different KPIs related to this service level agreement, like what is my failure time? So my failure time today would be at 5:40 p.m. today, and it's going to give me a warning later today at 2:40 p.m. Let's go ahead and move on here. Also related to the case is ability to have knowledge base articles. So for me to resolve this case, I might have an article that will tell me exactly what to tell the customer to do to resolve their issue. So this little area here where we saw the activities are knowledge base articles. And what it's doing right now is actually coming up with recommendations of articles that we have in our system that might be useful for me to resolve this case. So these are all based on information that we're collecting on the case, specifically like the case title. So it's looking for keywords in the case title. It can look in other fields as well, but again, it's coming up with specific knowledge base articles that might be used to resolve this customer's problem. Okay. I can sort those articles by the number of times those articles have been viewed in our system, or by when they were last modified, or again the relevance of what we're searching for to match those articles. So far, what I've shown you is basically the web interface of the case management area of Dynamics 365. What you're seeing right now is actually what's called a unified service desk. This is just another type of interface around Dynamics 365 for case management. So the unified service desk has a couple of different features than the web version that we were previously looking at. For example, you can have scripting going on. So what you're looking at right now is I basically called up Coho Winery, the same customer that we were just looking at. And you can see on the left-hand side of the screen that I have a script that my customer service people are going to follow. So basically very similar to that business process flow ribbon where they can identify who's calling in. Do I need to enter a new service request, so a new case? Or do I need to look up an existing case, maybe based on what they're telling me over the phone or via chat? And then I can follow that process. So here I've identified who the contact is, and you see a little checkbox going up there. I can then do a new service request. Then that's going to kind of branch out and say, well, okay, well, what kind of service requests are we doing? Are you going to go ahead and just create a new case here, Jeff, or what are you going to do? So you can see there's a little bit different guiding for my customer service reps when we use the unified service desk. Your customer service reps may also use mobile phones and mobile tablets to interface with Dynamics 365. This is actually a mobile phone application on my Windows iPhone here. So I've logged in and I'm on my dashboard on my mobile phone. It's a little bit different dashboard than what we were looking at in the web browser, but as a customer service rep, I can see that I have 7 cases that are assigned to me. If I tap on that window here, I can now see those 7 cases listed out on the screen. If you look at the top one here that's kind of highlighted, that's that printer menu is frozen. That's that same case that we looked at in the web browser. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on that. And you'll notice that the case form is now being rendered on my mobile phone. So the first thing I notice is on the top is I have that same business process flow. Again, it looks a little different. It's not a green ribbon, but I can see that, yes, we are currently in the identifying stage of this particular case, and we've been in that stage for the last 5 hours. If I scroll down the form here, just swiping down here, we can see that, yep, we still have to resolve this case in 2 hours and 51 minutes. And so that's to meet the SLA that this customer, Coho Winery, has with us. So again, your users themselves can use the web version, they can use that unified service desk, or mobile devices such as iPhones, Androids, and Windows phones to interact with those service cases. They can use all 3 of these methods, or you can just choose the method that best fits your organization for what you're trying to accomplish. I have switched back to the web view of that same case that we're just looking at on the mobile phone. So this is that printer menu is frozen case that we're looking at. And I mentioned earlier that this particular case actually originated from an email. And I can see that if you look in the business process flow ribbon up on the top, one of the first things in our identifying stage is identifying the origin of this case. Well, then this email was sent to our support email at my company. This case got created automatically. Okay, and so that's why the origin was automatically tagged as an email. So how does that work? This actually is going to be true not only for email cases. So again, if any of your customers are emailing, support@yourcompany.com, that's one way that these cases can be created. But also through the social media channel that we talked about. So social media, there's tools in Dynamics 365 that you can integrate your social media sites to Dynamics 365. So things such as Twitter, Facebook, those kinds of things. And if your customers are sending you private messages through those tools, or even possibly public messages, let's say on a Twitter or Facebook, you can configure Dynamics 365 to automatically create support cases and then route them to the appropriate people, just like the case that you see here. So how is that done? So I'm going to navigate into the settings area of Dynamics 365, and we're going to go to the service management under settings here. And inside of service management, there's a function in here called automatic record creation and update rules. And that's where we're managing this email and social media automatic creation of these service cases. So I went ahead and clicked on that, and you can see here I have two rules set up, or case creation rules. So one of them is case creation for an email, and one of them is case creation for a social activity. The way I have my social activity defined is that if the customer actually sends us like a private message to our Twitter account, my company's Twitter account, or a private message to my company's Facebook account, I'm then capturing that as an activity inside of Dynamics 365. And because of that activity, I can then automatically have a service case created, just like the one that we looked at. But let's pop in and just look at this case creation rule for my email. Pretty simple. So I've configured an email address in what's called a queue inside of Dynamics 365. And for me, I just call it my support queue. Now, you can have different types of queues, you can have different email addresses, but if anybody in the world emails this email address, so support@yourcompany.com, Dynamics 365 is capturing that email and putting it into a queue. And then this rule that you see on the screen is then coming into effect and saying, oh, there's a new email in the queue, I'm going to automatically create a case. Then we can map information from that email, such as the subject and the body of the email, and map those to the different fields that we have on the case, like the description of the case and the title of the case and that type of thing. And then, of course, that email will be attached to the case, just like I showed you a little bit ago. So that's how these rules work. So it's pretty simple to set up an email and social media case creation rules. And then I can then reply to these customers. So for example, when I resolve these cases, and this would be true for any type of channel, but when I resolve these cases, I can communicate back to them via email and social media and that type of thing. I'm going to navigate back to my main menu here and talk about probably one of the oldest channels out there, and that is going to be the telephone or phone channel. So traditionally, people are going to call in to a support line or call in directly, and your customer service agents can actually have phone integration work with Dynamics 365. Now, you don't need that. Obviously, if I'm a customer service agent, I can go to our case management area, which I'm going to do real quick, and I can click the new case or phone support case button. And what that's going to do, I'm going to go ahead and click the phone support case button. What that's going to do is basically open up a new case. I've got somebody on the phone, and I'm going to start basically manually filling out, well, who are you? So find who the customer is, who's the person that I'm talking to, do you already have an open case in our system or not? And of course you see that it's already filling in that the case origin is phone because I clicked on the new phone case button. So that's going to be the traditional way, but it's very common that companies that run Dynamics 365 want to integrate their phone system to Dynamics 365. So that way when calls come in, different screens can pop up. I can identify who the customer is before I even answer the call and that type of thing. So I'm going to demonstrate that for you next here. So I've navigated back just to my dashboard inside of Dynamics 365. And really, I can be doing anything. I could be working in Word or Excel or anything, and a phone call might come in. Okay, so I'm going to simulate that right now. So I'm a customer service agent, and one of our customers is going to be calling into our system soon. So I have a telephone integration installed into my environment here. There are several of them out there. The one that I have installed is one from a company called CRM Add-ons, and it's their telephone integration tool. So it can integrate with most phone systems, even some pretty old ones. As long as your phone system is, certainly the current ones, but if your phone system is what's called TAPI compliant, and that's TAPI, it can be integrated to this system. So you might have a phone system that it routes your calls based on who's available and that type of thing. Of course, this integration would work with that. So a customer is going to be calling in shortly here, and that has just happened. So as you can see, a little pop-up on the right-hand side of my screen has come up. And so the phone number is listed there. That phone number is actually associated with several people in company, or at least one company and several people inside of my Dynamics 365 system. So I can see that it looks like it's Coho Winery that's calling. That must be their main phone number. But that phone number is also associated with Cat Francis, Frank Goodrich, and also Jeff Stewart. Those people work for Coho Winery and just happen to have the main phone number listed as their contact phone number. But I can see here, I'm going to go ahead and answer the call. So if I click this answer button, it's going to actually answer the call with my phone system, and I'll be talking to the customer. So I introduce myself, and I find out that it's Frank that's calling me. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on Frank's name here. And what it does then is show me other calls that I've had with Frank in previous conversations, or really with the same phone number that has called in. So sometimes it's been Frank, sometimes it's been Kat, sometimes I haven't answered the call, and you see all of that listed here. Once I clicked on Frank's name on this little panel on the right-hand side, you notice that a window popped open up on my screen here. This is actually a new phone call record inside of Dynamics 365, and that just popped open automatically with this integration. That's the way that I have my system configured. You can pop open the Frank Goodrich contact record. You can pop open Frank's company record, which would have been Coho Winery. You've got some options here of what should happen when you identify who's calling in. For me, I just have a phone call record pop open because I don't know if Frank's calling about a problem. I happen to be a customer service rep, but maybe he's calling in about a new sale or something like that. So what I'm going to do, and what I want my customer service reps to do, is log the conversation of their phone call. So I'm just going to go ahead and log a quick note in my phone call record here. So just not logging that he's calling in with an issue with his printer. Well, I don't want to put too much information into this phone call record. I'm going to go ahead and save that, so at least I've documented that I'm logging that I've had this conversation with Frank. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and from this phone call record, I saved it, and I'm going to go ahead and I can convert this phone call record actually into a support case. So if Frank was calling maybe about a new, he wants to buy some new product with us or something like that, you notice I can convert it into an opportunity as well. But for this example, we're focusing on customer service. So I'm actually going to convert this phone call into a support case, just like the ones that we've been looking at. I'm going to then be prompted just with a small little dialogue just saying, okay, is the customer going to be Frank? Or maybe I need to change it to Coho Winery because I maybe track my support cases at the company level and not necessarily at the contact level, although you can do both. So I'm going to leave that at Frank here. And then I also want to just record, what is he calling about? So this is called the subject field. And of course, you can define the different areas of your business that you might be using to support your customers. So he's calling about a service problem, and it's not a delivery issue. It's technically a maintenance issue. And then I'm just telling it to open up this new case. So I'm just converting this phone call into a new support case in my Dynamics 365 system. At this stage, you're going to see the exact same screen that we've been looking at a couple of times now. Again, I'm in my web version here, but there you see my business process ribbon. You can see that the phone call is the origin of this case. The customer is Frank, and I already have the case defined as the subject of that phone call record that I initially saved here. At this point, I'm just going to proceed on and resolve this case. Some of the other things you can do with this specific MSCRM add-ons telephone integration is, if I pull this menu down here, you'll notice that I can do many different things inside of CRM right from this telephone integration. So what we did is I just opened up a phone call record and converted that phone call into a case. But I could have just created a new record. So I could have created a new case, a new opportunity, create a new contact record. Maybe it wasn't Frank. Maybe somebody totally new that was calling in. I could create a whole new customer record. Or again, maybe it's somebody unknown. I need to create a lead record in our sales system. So there's many things that I could do with that. I could also just create a new activity. So again, a new phone call record, or just a new email, letter, or task, or just open up Frank's record inside of CRM. So that's just a little bit about the integration between a telephone integration system such as the MS CRM add-ons version of this and Dynamics 365. So far we've talked about the customer channels of email, social media, and telephone. And I'm going to segue and talk a little bit about web integration or portal integration. So with Dynamics 365 online, you are entitled to portals or one portal for your organization. That portal can be what's known as a customer self-service portal. And that's what you're actually looking at here on the screen right now. So this portal is actually housed in the cloud or stored in the cloud on Microsoft's cloud. It's tied to your company. These portals are configurable, but the other really neat thing about them is they're pretty easy to spin up. And what you see here is I just spun this up just a day ago, and I really have not made any customizations to it. So you can see that the company name is Contoso, which is my company, but the images and the branding and that and the colors of the portal, I haven't done anything with that. But that is all possible within the Dynamics 365 portals. But what I wanted to do is just kind of demonstrate the functionality. So customer self-service portals is usually for known customers. So maybe it might be a certain level of your entitlements or your SLA. So maybe certain customers you want to grant access to this self-service portal, or it could be to all your customers for that matter. You could also open it up where your customers can get to your portal and they can go and just create their own login without really any intervention from you. Or you can make it so that you do have some intervention where you have to approve that they become one of your customers in the portal. So this is the portal here. So the portal has functionality. Again, we can deploy it or not. We can hide some of these things, but it has functionality obviously for knowledge base. So the knowledge base articles that we were seeing as a customer service rep in our Dynamics 365 system just a few minutes ago, that same knowledge base can be exposed to your customers. So they can search to your knowledge base system to resolve their problems on their own. There's also a forum area. So if your customers are logging in, they can then maybe just log questions to your other customers, and there's a forum that you can manage. Now, of course, you're going to probably have a forum moderator within your internal organization that maybe monitors the forum messages and that kind of thing before they get posted publicly for all your customers to see. But there is forum functionality as well within the Dynamics 365 portal. And then, of course, we just have then our self-service portal, so my support and that kind of thing, which is what we're going to focus on. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to click the my support area, and you'll notice here that it tells me, hey, you haven't really signed into the portal yet, so maybe you want to do that. So let me go ahead and sign into the portal here. So I'm just going to click the sign in button, and I'm going to go ahead and log in. So right now I'm going to kind of wear the hat of Frank Goodrich. So Frank was the person that was calling in via our telephone channel just a few minutes ago. Well, Frank is also one of our portal users, and so I'm wearing the hat of Frank Goodrich now. So let me go and just log in. So Frank has a username. I just made it really simple for the purpose of this presentation, but normally that would be probably his full name or some sort of handle that he goes by. And let me go and put in the password here, and then I'll go ahead and sign in. Before I click the sign in button, let me talk just a little bit about managing your portal users. So again, typically they're going to be known customers that are coming into your portal for this self-service type help. You can manage those your customers' logins right through Dynamics 365. So I have the Frank Goodrich contact record. I can manage his portal login right on his contact record. If you want something a little bit more elaborate than that, you can also have what's called outside authentication. So I could set Frank up as one of our Active Directory users. And if I'm syncing that with Azure, which is just another cloud service, I can then basically, my portal logins would match my normal Active Directory network logins that we're managing. So that's one way to do that as well. Now, if you're not doing that, we would probably want to hide this button. But I just wanted to leave that on the screen here just to kind of talk about the different authentication methods that you can use within the Dynamics 365 portals. And then the third way is you can also manage it just through outside credentialing. So that can be like with a Microsoft account. So something like a .live account, or you can even manage it through like a Facebook login. So for your customers to log in, they could actually use their Facebook credentials to get authenticated into your portal. But that's not as common as just managing the portal authentication through CRM or through Dynamics 365 or through Azure, something like that. So in this example here, again, I'm managing my portal logins just through Dynamics 365. So let me go ahead and sign in here. Okay, I'm now signed in as Frank, and you see that on the upper right corner, that's me, Frank. And it's now listing out all of the service cases that I have open with my company. So you can see here, there's that service ticket that we just opened up a little bit ago, where Frank called in via our telephone integration, and we started a service case with that. There's the service case that we looked at that was from email, if you recall, where the printer menu was frozen. And then you can see they have other service cases. It can be set up, this is per portal user, where should that portal user, so should Frank see just his cases that he's technically assigned to, or is Frank maybe a super user at his company, which is Coho Winery? Is he a super user? Maybe he sees all of Coho Winery support tickets, even if it was not only to Frank, but maybe some other users at Coho Winery. Okay, so in this example here, Frank is actually one of those super users. So not only does he see support tickets assigned to him, he's seeing all support tickets related to Coho Winery. You can also change the view. So right now we're looking at Coho Winery's open support cases with us, but Frank can also choose to see their closed cases or all their cases combined. At this point, Frank can click and view the details of any of these cases. He can actually make updates to these cases as long as they're still open. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on this case number here, and you can see the different pieces of information that we're showing our portal users on the portal. Now this is actually a CRM form that we're looking at here. So earlier I talked about customizing CRM forms to capture the information that you need to capture for your business on that case form. Well, this is just another type of case form. It's called the portal case form. So this is completely customizable as well, and you're customizing it the same way that we customize your internal Dynamics 365 form, which is very easy to do. So you're managing what fields of information do we want to expose to our portal users. So you see here we got the case type and that kind of thing. But we didn't expose everything. We just exposed the information that we wanted to expose to portal users. Okay, so Frank can go ahead and make changes to this and go ahead and just click update and update it. He's also allowed to resolve the case on his own or just cancel the case if it's not an issue anymore. And that's then going to change the status of those cases inside our Dynamics 365 system. The last thing you can do is you can add comments. This is one way that we can communicate with your customers back and forth. So if I'm Frank and I'm on the portal here, is I can put a comment right from the portal. This is not a very good example, but I'm going to go and do it anyway, just so we have something there, and I'm going to go ahead and submit that. Now that comment's going to show up in Dynamics 365 as a comment against that case. Okay, it's called a portal comment activity. So remember all the activities, the emails and everything like that, that's going to show up as what's called a portal comment activity. Inside of Dynamics 365, I can do the same thing. I can put a comment in Dynamics 365, or one of my customer service reps can put that in Dynamics 365, and that would show up here on the portal. And of course, we can always use the traditional Microsoft Dynamics 365 or CRM workflow. So when that comment was just added by Frank, maybe we need to notify one of our customer service reps, ideally the service rep that's working on Frank's case, that, hey, Frank actually updated the case with some new information. That can be all done through workflow inside of Dynamics 365. I'm going to go ahead and click back on my support here and get back to my list of cases here. So we have our list of cases. Frank could have also just typed in his problem up here. So this is one of the ways that Frank can search for knowledge base articles. So here you can see I just typed in the word printer, and it's trying to come up with relevant articles that we have in our knowledge base system, which of course we're managing in Dynamics 365, with the relevant articles that might help solve Frank's problem, and he doesn't even have to then submit a ticket to us. Lastly, of course, if Frank cannot find an article, then he can go ahead and submit a new case. So if we scroll down here, there's a button that just says Open New Case. So if I click that again, what's going to render to Frank is the actual Dynamics CRM portal case form. So it might be a very limited version of the case form. It's certainly not the same case form that my internal customer service reps use, but it's a form nonetheless. So I'm going to go and just put a new case in here. We're going to call it issue with cartridge. Okay, you can see what it's trying to do is it's trying to then come up with, hey, before you submit this case, maybe you should take a look at these articles. But I'm not going to go ahead and do that. I'm just going to go ahead and say that it's a problem and it's not related to any kind of opportunity, anything like that. There's our subject tree that we saw earlier. So I'm Frank, and I'm going to go ahead and choose one of our subject that it's actually a maintenance problem. And I'll just go ahead and put a little description here. So cartridge just seems to dry up within weeks, and that's my problem. And then I'm going to go ahead and submit this case. I could attach a file. So if I've got maybe a picture or a print screen of what my problem is, I could do that and attach a file to the case as well. And that would then, of course, show up on Dynamics 365. Let's go ahead and just submit this, and then we'll take a look at this case inside of Dynamics 365. Okay, you can see that the case has been submitted, and it's now the top case on my list of all the cases for Frank. I'm just going to go ahead and go back into Dynamics 365 here, and we'll go ahead and navigate back to our case area. So now I'm wearing the CSR hat, and let me go ahead and just sort these cases by the created on date and see if we see Frank's new case show up here. Yep, and there it is. So you can see that the latest and greatest case was just the one that was submitted via the portal by Frank. Okay. You can see the previous cases as well. I didn't talk about this icon before, but this icon is just a visual indicator of where did the case come from. So you can see the email and the web and phone and that kind of thing. Let's go ahead and look at this case that Frank submitted. And we can see that it indeed came in from the web. It's for Coho Winery and Frank Goodrich. Frank filled in really all this information from the portal. And then I have other fields here where I can then have my CSRs fill them in if applicable. If we look at the activities, there really aren't any activities. But one of the activities that I could do, and I showed you on another case that Frank actually put a comment on that case, but he did not put a comment on this case yet. But from a CSR perspective, a CSR could go ahead and add a new comment to this case. So one of the types of activities that you see here is going to be, I need to scroll down a little bit more here. Go ahead and just minimize this. I think that'll be easier to show you. Okay, so if I wanted to add a new activity, I could add a new phone call, I could do an appointment or an email. But one of the activity types here is a portal comment. So if I do a portal comment, I can go ahead and actually request more information from Frank. So I'm just going to put, hi Frank, can you send your printo model number? Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and just save and mark this as a completed comment. Now that's going to be listed as one of the activities against this case, along with all the phone calls and emails that I might later have with this particular case. So again, if I go back to activities, there's my comment. Now if I go back to the portal that Frank was logged into, and if Frank were to look at this case, now Frank might get an email saying, hey, Jeff Spain, the customer service rep, has now updated your case. But assuming that that already happened, if Frank then goes and looks at the this particular case on the portal, you'll notice here that there is a comment out here from me. I was the customer service rep, and say, hi Frank, can you send me your printer model number? Now Frank then could add a comment and say, and submit that to me. Again, through Dynamics 365 workflow, that could notify me, Jeff Spain, the customer service rep, that Frank actually put a new comment on the case. Okay, so let's go back into Dynamics 365 and wear my customer service hat again. And if I look at the activities now, we can see that there is a second portal comment from Frank where he said it's model 55444. So that's a little bit on the customer self-service portal, but a very common and a pretty simple channel to implement in Dynamics 365. So we're going to next transition and talk about our last channel, which is going to be chat. So for chat, we've all probably seen this and probably even all used them. So basically, chat is basically you have a website that you then allow your customers or your potential web browsers to chat with your agents real time, or possibly even chat with a bot or a robot system before they reach a real agent. So if you look on the screen here, you can see on the right-hand side that I have a website. And this is obviously a different website than my customer portal. This is just my company website. I know that this is not the same company that we were just talking about with Contoso that was dealing with printer and printer cartridges, but apparently Contoso also rents hotel rooms and suites. That's a little bit of a joke, but that's actually the demonstration environment that I have to show you the chat channel of customer experience. So in order to get this to work, there is a third-party product that I have installed into my Dynamics 365. The company is called it's called Live Assist by CafeX, and it's a Microsoft preferred partner for the chat experience that I'm going to be showing you. So I have that application installed, and what that does is it adds some functionality right into Dynamics 365. So if you look at the left-hand side of this screen, this is my Dynamics 365 on my dashboard that we were in earlier. And if you look over on the right-hand side of this, you can see I have a little pane here that is my CafeX chat integration. Okay, so I'm back to being a customer service rep here, and I'm logged into the chat system. And at this point, I'm just waiting for somebody to maybe come online and click the chat button. So let's go ahead and do that. So on the right-hand side of my screen here, where we have the room and suites, I can be browsing this website. So I'm just going to go ahead and look at the map for a minute. And then I'm going to go to the gallery and that kind of thing. I'm going back to rooms, and now I have a question or a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and click the live chat button as being a customer. And you notice here that then a chat window opens up. And then if you look on the left-hand side of the screen, it might be kind of hard to see, but I can see, and I heard a little bell ring that says, hey, a new chat is out there. So as a customer service rep, I want to now grab that chat. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that button to grab this chat. At this point, we're going to kind of see the same thing. We're going to see the chat window on the left-hand side that your CSRs are going to be using, and then on the right-hand side, you see kind of the user chat window that your customers are going to be using. If you kind of notice here on the left, as soon as I grab that chat, I'm getting some initial information about who am I chatting with. And that's kind of important to know. So I can see that they're chatting from the city of Champlin, that they're doing it from a desktop device. The browser that they're using is Chrome, so I know exactly what device that they're on. It tells me how long they had to wait before I picked up their chat, so they just had to wait 18 seconds and that kind of thing. More importantly is you can, and I just don't have this configured right now, but when the customer actually clicked the chat button on our website, I could have asked them what's called some pre-chat survey questions. So I could maybe ask them their name, maybe an email address, their phone number. That's important. That way, if they do fill that out and then submit that, then I know exactly who I'm chatting with before I even ask them, right? It's going to then match them up with a CRM record of a contact record or a customer record, and I know exactly who I'm chatting with. Again, I don't have that configured, so at this point I just know it's kind of an anonymous visitor, and I know that they're in Champlin, Minnesota, and I know that they're on a desktop using Chrome. Okay, so let's go ahead and just do a little bit of interaction here. So as the customer, I'm going to say, they just need help finding a room with a king bed, and they're going to hit enter. And of course, then you see that chat on the left-hand side show up on our CSR. And the CSR can then communicate with them, start typing in messages and hit enter, and then that communication is going to go back and forth. So I'm not going to do a whole lot of that because we've all done that before, but just a couple of quick features here. You can have preloaded messages loaded in the system. So if you don't have to type all these things for the things that you typically are going to say. So that could be a greeting or a goodbye or anything like that. I think if I scroll down here, yeah, so I have a message here that says, hello, how may I assist you? Okay, maybe I should have done that before they already asked me what was going on, but I can then pass those messages back and forth. And of course, I can also just type and send that to the customer. So again, we're just chatting back and forth through this little chat utility. I'm using some predefined messages just to make typing that much faster. There are some features as well as if we both just kind of sit here for a while, it would automatically send the customer a message saying, hey, are you still there? Are we still chatting? That kind of thing. So we're going to exchange some message back and forth and go from there. Some other really neat features of this is there's a feature called co-browse. So I'm not going to demonstrate that, but there's a button up here where I can basically invite the customer to co-browse. So if they're having a problem with their website where they can't maybe find something, or in this case, they're trying to find a room with twin beds, as a CSR, maybe I just know that they're not in the right area of the website. So you can actually do a co-browsing session. And what that's going to do then is you'll see the browser that the customer is looking at, and then you can point out and highlight things on the browser for them to click. So basically pointing out what they're looking for within your website itself. So that's kind of a neat feature as well. The other thing that you can do with this CafeX Live Assist is, interact with CRM again. So maybe we're chatting back and forth and say, hey, I'm actually need to open up one of those support cases and get one of our techs involved in this. So if you look on the bottom of my screen on the left-hand side here, there's a create button. Now there's a shortcut key for that as well, but I could create a new service case. Now if they were calling maybe about a new potential sale, I might be wanting to add a new lead or opportunity in my system on the sales side, but I'm going to go ahead and just click case here, and you'll see what happens is then on the left-hand side, just like everything else, I'm starting a new case inside of Dynamics 365. You can see that the origin of that case is not phone or web or email, it's a Live Assist chat origin. And at this point, since I don't know who the customer is because I did not have them fill out a pre-survey, I then now have to find a customer to associate this case with. But at this point, we are really just simply entering a case like we would any other time inside of Dynamics 365. So let's go ahead and put Coho Winery as the customer again, since that seems to be who we've always been dealing with during this presentation. And well, I'm not going to go ahead and put a contact in here, and I'm just going to say, need help finding a room as the case title. Let me go ahead and just save this. Now, if I click save and route, that will then route it based on the information that I've already captured to the appropriate people so that it gets assigned to the right CSR. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit save, though, just to get this case originally saved here. And then I'm going to continue maybe chatting and saying to the customer that I opened a case for them, and they should hear back in the next hour or so. And then I say thank you, and then I end the chat. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and end the chat with this customer here. And you can see on the far right-hand side that they just get a thank you for chatting with us, and then the chat session is over. But now that I've ended that chat session, now I have this open case that needs to get routed to the right CSR, but I wanted to point out the activities here. So if you look in the activities, there is now an activity of that chat session that we just had. Okay, and there it is. I'm going to go ahead and open up this chat session just so we can look at it real quick. But guess we have all the information from the case, but then here's the information from the chat session itself, which was really the originating activity. So again, it's regarding this case. It was with me, the CSR. If I scroll down here, it has a information about the URL, so the website page that they were on when they clicked the chat, so I can remember what web page they were on when they actually clicked the chat. And then I also have the ability to see the transcript of the chat conversation that we had that again originated this whole case. So it's right here. So this is just the record of that chat activity. And there's a field in here that says chat transcript URL. So actually Live Assist by CafeX is keeping those transcripts. But if I click that, it will then open up the web page for Live Assist that is a record of that complete chat conversation that we had that started that particular service case. So that was the last channel that I wanted to show you today in this presentation. So in summary, what we looked at today is basically supporting your customers and giving them a customer experience in many different channels. We looked at creating cases from emails and social activity, such as private Twitter messages or Facebook messages. We looked at the traditional telephone method of or channel of customer experience by showing you that telephone integration. We then showed you the customer service portal, which is a part of your subscription with Dynamics 365. And then the last thing we showed you is that chat integration using Live Assist from CafeX. And then you also saw that your internal customer service agents or customer service reps had many different ways to interface with the customer themselves. So that was the web interface, which is what we typically saw. I showed you a little bit of the unified service desk that helped kind of guide your customer service reps through finding out who the customer is and do we need to do a case or what do we need to do. I showed you a little bit of the mobile interface, and we talked a little bit about the Outlook integration as well, which most of you are probably familiar with, but you can create cases just from clicking on an email in your Outlook system if desired. But thank you for watching our presentation on multi-channel customer experience. If you want more information about what you saw today, you can get that on our website at www.columbusglobal.com. And I look forward to doing more presentations and having you listen to them in the future. Thank you.